the music was phenomenal. My husband and I, we just changed churches. Part of just being a caregiver, which we'll talk about, you have to make some changes and be flexible. So we changed churches, and we don't exactly have this music anymore, just where we live, because we live kind of far out, and so we don't get to hear it that often, so it was really great hearing it. Thank you. So I have written a book, Dad's Got Dementia, Life After Diagnosis. What we're going to talk about today is not dementia, but care, as it relates to dementia or any disease at all, just what it takes to be a caregiver, what your life can become, and what it looks like as a caregiver. So I'm just going to talk about how we kind of fell into this role. Wasn't anything we planned. You know, I feel like we're too young to be in this position, but you're never too young or too old to find yourself in this position. So my dad was diagnosed in 2010 with dementia. It was totally devastating for our family because we've never had any major illness. So all of this was new and foreign to us. So just the diagnosis itself, we really just didn't even know what that meant. Whether it was, for us, it was dementia, but for you, it may be cancer, it may be diabetes. You know, there are a number of reasons and situations that can put you into a caregiver mode. So for us, it was dementia. I have 4 siblings. There are 5 of us total, 3 girls, 2 boys, and my mother. So we kind of scrambled as soon-to-be caregivers. We scrambled to just try to figure out what to do, where to begin, just what all of this meant again. And for us, we started with just relocating my parents. A little side note, with dementia, you can forget a lot of things. And what my father forgot was to pay the mortgage. So they lost their house. So we did not, all of this happened all at once. We didn't have a choice but to move. So we moved our parents closer to us, and a lot of us are on the north side of town. So we moved them closer so we could support my mother as she cared for my father, whatever that meant. We really didn't know what that meant. But we just felt like, okay, we can be close, we can maybe take them to the grocery store if they need to go, or my husband took my father to a prayer meeting. He was the first elder at Berean, so he would take him to meetings. So we were really just supporting and just thought we were doing such a great job. And we were. But with the disease, as things changed, my father went from being a vibrant, outgoing man to a vibrant man who could no longer dress himself properly or pick out clothes properly or determine if he had a bath today or was it yesterday. I remember the first time we saw a significant change was after we moved them closer to us, and it was maybe a few months, and it might have been a Friday night we were over, and not all of us were over, but a few of us were, because again, my parents, they lived close in their own house. But my father, he was getting ready for bed. And he came back out where we were, in the living room, and he had on his underwear, his undershirt, socks on his hands, and a belt around his waist. That was really the beginning of what changed our life. Because from there, all of the strange behavior started to happen. And that's where we had to figure out what is it we're going to do. And at that time, you know, we really didn't call ourselves caregivers. We were just trying to figure out what to do and how to do. But that's really what we were. Today, 10 years later, almost, my father can do He is still at home, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But he's still at home. We chose to care for him at home. That was a choice. But he can do nothing. If we didn't feed him, he would starve to death. If we didn't get him out of bed, he would lay there all day because he can't do it himself anymore. So that's what it has turned into for us and for him. So I have a master's degree in business, so I do business stuff all day. My other siblings, 4 out of 5 of us actually, we are in corporate America doing different things. We are so not qualified as caregivers. None of us went to school for that. So again, we're finding out how to navigate. And I think there's 2 of us that probably you should never trust us even with your plans, much less caring for someone. But again, this is where we have found ourselves. But we have choices. But before I go into the choices, I did see some hands with people who are caregivers. How many are caregivers today? Okay, so are you CNA or you just care for, you are a CNA? Okay. Okay, so my story should be very similar to, yes, it should bring back some, memories, hopefully some pleasant. Yeah. Anyone else caregiver? Official or unofficial? Well, okay, and who do you care for?
I'm speaking this into existence. I'm actually in seminary for pastoral care, and I'm looking to go the counseling route as it relates to administering care. It was not physical care, but it's pastoral care.
Care is care. Yeah. It doesn't matter what, if it's mental, physical, spiritual, it's all care and requires something from you. So if
I was a CNA for a while as well, and I worked for the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay.
For about 4 years, so I've been in the homes, and my mother needed care, even though I wasn't directed there all the time because of my practice. But I did work the field for you, so I'm very aware of the definition and care that it takes.
yeah, and I'll talk about that too, just being a CNA and providing care for others, for, someone else's family member. Anyone else caregiver? And I want this to be interactive, so feel free to. Okay. Amen. Okay, we'll get this one lady in the front. Okay.
No one knew what to do. And so one day she just walked away from her house, and I was
Yeah.
she did that come and just see her, and she not made that. Calling police and said there's a lady here going around circles that she was lost. She couldn't tell who she was, couldn't tell her name, she couldn't tell where she was from. Because she was a nursing home, which was close by. And they at the nursing home probably didn't know what to do themselves either, because they took her in the dining room the next morning, had breakfast, and after breakfast, she disappeared.
Yeah. It's difficult being a caregiver, and especially when you don't know what to expect. It's very difficult.
I'm not a caregiver, and because I may receive my parents as caregiver that is to happen because they are getting older, and we know in that generation that that's what happens.
Yeah. Right. We have all found ourselves in that same position.
Yeah, my dad is 30 years.
difficult, again, position to be in when you have someone's life in your hands and you're not exactly up to speed on what to do for that person. I'll take one more person, the gentleman right back here, and then
I was a caregiver over my wife for our son. Okay, God is right now, but I'm not trying to separate diagnosis. And so anything from getting some food on the stove to whatever. But like I said, it's a strong person to be a good caregiver.
it
Be
does.
responsible and know everything that they can do and don't do.
It does. And speaking of that, I wanted to talk about just having options as a caregiver. So all of us have family members, a spouse, children, people we know, and you have a choice when something happens if you want to be a caregiver. So, you know, obviously we decided to be a caregiver, and I'll tell you why, but you can decline to be a caregiver. Some people do. And they put their friends, families, loved ones in a nursing home, which I am not knocking a nursing home at all, but if they have declined to care for them, then you put them somewhere where they can get care. So again, you can just go visit every other month, and you know, that's a choice. You can choose to be a non-committed caregiver. Those are the worst kinds, and we all run into them. Someone who is unreliable. For my father, we have him on, keep walking away from this, we have him on a schedule, and it's imperative that we keep him on that schedule so that he knows what to expect. Because we can't tell him this is what we're going to do, and we don't want him to become confused or maybe combative over taking him through a bath exercise because he's not accustomed to it. So we keep him on a schedule. We also have a caregiver that comes in the morning for 4 hours every day. Those are the crucial hours for us because that's when all the heavy lifting takes place. That's when we have to get him out of bed. Remember, he can't do that. We have to get him in the shower and bathe him and dress him. And then we have to feed him. If we didn't, he would not eat. So if you have an unreliable caregiver, and we have had that, there's no one to help us get him out of bed. I mean, he's a big, even now, he's a big man, and we just can't do it alone. All 5 of us now have back problems because of just what it takes and the sacrifice. But if you have someone who is just unreliable, or maybe they have a bad attitude, that's even worse. We have sent caregivers home. I have called the agencies to say, do not send them again. Because you have to want to do what you're doing. So don't be that type of a caregiver. If that is your position, you should probably pass it off to another family member. So being a committed caregiver, there's a lot. First of all, you become a doctor, and you don't have to go to school for that. You don't have to pay that tuition. You are automatically an MD. And sometimes it works in your favor, and other times it does not. We, again, keep my father at home, and we have to make decisions for him, medically. I mean, we have to be able to assess what's going on with him. He can't tell us. So we have to look at his expressions. We have to look at how he's holding his body. We have to look if listen if he's moaning, look if he's frowning. I mean, all of those things. We recently had an episode, and I will share just a little bit more about that. My father was recently, we decided to put him on hospice because he is late-stage dementia and, you know, he's declining. So we put him on hospice, and we agreed as a family that we would not call 911 if something went down, because that's our go-to, rushing him to the hospital. We agreed. So it was early, I think it might have been 1 o'clock in the morning, and my parents, my husband and I, we bought another house. Again, change, you gotta be flexible. We bought another house. to make sure that my parents could come and they were closer to us. So we have an apartment for them so we can hear and see what's going on. Well, 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 or 2 in the morning, my mother was calling for us because my father was breathing not so well. So, you know, we went downstairs, we're looking, like, what do? We can't call 911. We said we weren't calling 911. Hospice said don't call 911. So we called all the brothers and the sisters to come over. This, you know, doesn't look good. Again, we're MDs that we didn't go to school for. So we have decided that this is it. We'll just sit here and just figure this out. He's having trouble breathing. So then halfway through the day, it's like, okay, I'm crying uncle because I'm calling 911. Mom, are you okay? Because we're calling 911. This is just crazy. I can't do it. So we did call 911, took him to the hospital. Turns out he had a very, very severe case of dehydration. It's hard to keep him hydrated. And then urinary tract infection, which could be deadly for an elderly person. So that's where I probably would have lost my license, my medical license, and my siblings as well, because sometimes you don't know what to do, and you're just trying to do the best you can. But you have to be able to live with those decisions. So, you know, we decided, okay, he's back on hospice, and they've given us some steps to take, because at the hospital they really can't do anything for him. So, you know, they've given us, don't feel sad about it. He's thriving. He's at a good place. He's happy. He's comfortable. So don't feel sad about that. Yeah. So another committed caregiver experience is that you get to relive your youth. You can stay up all times of day and night now because they're going to keep you up. So get used to it. If you're committed, just know that you're going to be up. You're going to be up all times of night, and then you have to get up and go to work in the morning. Because that's just the way it is. You're committed, remember? And then it's frightening. Again, there are so many medical crises, and you just don't know if you're doing the right thing or if you're responding the way you need to respond. I mean, my father has, he's never hit the floor, thank goodness. He's never fallen because we're really careful, but he has passed out. And so, they've told us what it is and why he could potentially pass out. Pretty normal experience for an older person. But again, it's frightening, especially if it's your day, because we switch up on the weekends. If it's your day to stay with him and to watch him and to care for him, and all this is happening on your watch. So, it is scary. But we're committed. And then it's isolating. Caring for someone after, I think about year number 3, I would say. Did we stop getting those potluck invitations? I think we did. Year number 3, your friends just seem to go away. And you become isolated. You're not involved in anything. You're not invited to anything anymore. And it's it's not like they didn't love you when you were friends. They did. But you're always too busy. And I know that one of the ladies, I'm not sure where she is, asked if I could come here on Sabbath at 4:30. I'm not sure. I mean, it's hard for me to commit. I'm committed to caring for my father, but it's hard for me to commit to other things. And so those invitations stop coming. And it is an isolating thing. Now, lucky for us, there are 5 of us. And tons of grandkids and husbands, and we have a house full all the time, so I don't feel it at all. I don't feel, or, maybe I don't even miss it, because I have family around all the time. But some people don't have it that way. So, if you are one of those people who feel a little bit isolated, maybe just try to reach out if you can. But I certainly didn't have the time, we don't have the time to have any kind of social life. So be prepared for that. And then let's talk about those sleepovers. You're going to have some sleepovers at the hospital. So just pack your little jammies and your pillow, and you get to sleep in those hard, uncomfortable chairs that they provide for everybody to sleep in. I know one time my father, he was in the hospital, and he was in there for a few days, and so it was a Saturday. It was a Saturday night, so of course, us girls, there were 3 of us, and then my mother, we decided we're going to spend the night and have a pizza party. Because 1, we never leave my father alone, ever, even in the hospital. And 2, we just wanted to have some fun. So we had a pizza party in his room with him, and we all slept. We bunked up and just slept where we could. And so that is what's exciting in our lives now. Instead of going out to, AYS and then the after party, we're having our after party at the hospital. So get used to it. Can anybody relate to that? Yeah. But there are many rewards of caregiving. I don't want it to sound like it's all doom and gloom, because it's not. There are many, many rewards. I tell you, when my father, again, he's late stage, he hasn't really spoken like full sentences in maybe 2 years. He can say simple things, like he was a very social man, so for some reason he hasn't lost that. So he knows how to say, hi, how you doing? I think he's told my husband once or twice, hey bro, or something like that. It's like, where did that come from? So those are rewarding times for us when he speaks out, when he communicates. So as a caregiver, any type of acknowledgement from your patient, your family member, it just hits home. I mean, it just drives you to be able to get up that next day and do it all over again. So there are so many rewards. I know a few days ago, we were sitting in our backyard on the patio, and my father was out there, and we have a sheepadoodle. It's a dog, really fluffy dog, and we love her. Her name is Tilly. But she was in the backyard with us, and I was feeding my father dinner, but he wanted to hold his plate, so I let him hold his plate, and Tilly walked up to him, and she kind of got on his plate like this, and out of nowhere, he says, "Get out of here." And it's like, what? How does he know how to say that? So we were just really excited about that. My sister was like, well, bring the dog up to him again and see if he'll say it again. We're like, no, we're not going to torture him. But those are just, again, rewarding moments that I just wouldn't miss. And I have to say that I believe that if you can keep your loved one at home, that's the best place for them. And I know it's not possible, so I'm not going to act like it is, because with 5 of us, a caregiver, our spouses, my mother, taking care of him 24/7, and all of us play a role. So it's really hard, but you have to be committed. You have to have a care plan so you can care for them, whatever it is they're suffering from. You have to be able to go to doctor's appointments and make sure that you're keeping track with whatever's going on with them. I mean, you are the advocate. You hold their life in your hands. And that's not an easy task. But we have chosen to do it. I think that everyone should do it if they can. Because, people recover faster at home. And if it's a terminal illness, they're happier at home, and you could just take care of them better than anybody else. So I'm just an advocate of that. So just a couple more things before I close out here. And I wanted to tell you, just to go over why we chose to be caregivers. We grew up, again, a large family. My father was in the military. We traveled all over the world. And we were always able to rely on each other. When you move around and you don't have that close connection with outside people, because most of the time we were in a foreign country, so we relied on each other. My father taught us to do that. And we did everything together, and even as adults, we do a lot together even today. But because of that, he showed us what it means to be family. And as a committed family member, my siblings are committed family members. We could never consider putting him in a home. So we committed to the process, and we committed to see it all the way through. My sister, early on when he was experiencing some just kind of in and out of cognition, she promised him she would never put him in a home. And that sister of mine that promised that, I mean, she's the firstborn, and I tell you, that's her boyfriend. She will not put anybody near him. If he's like going through something, you can forget it. You won't even be able to get close to him to hold his hand, including my mother. So she made that commitment to him. And it's just the fact that we love him. And again, some people have to put their loved ones in a home. I am not speaking against that. But I'm telling you why we chose to keep him at home and how we were able to keep him at home. And if you have the opportunity, certainly try to do the same. So we just have that family bond. So I just want to read one quick thing here. And it is from Matthew chapter 25, starting at verse 31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory,